Hi, you're watching or listening to the Shift Training Podcast,
where we talk about personal development, we talk about mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health, and just overall well-being.
And today we're going to be talking about persistence, grit, and emotional resilience. So let's get started. First thing I want to go ahead and jump right to is this quote for persistence is, "You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it." That's Margaret Thatcher. Okay, So you might have to fight a battle more than once to win it. I think that is a great quote or way to look at persistence. So we'll start with persistence, we'll move towards grit, and we'll finish with emotional resilience. And today we're basically just going to touch base on why those are similar, work together, but also are not the same. Why you kind of need all three to really succeed. Yeah.
From what I've noticed, all of those three traits is that they all have something in common, which is mental toughness. I think all these three traits, high performers have these. Some people that are like operating in an elite level, they all have this grit, perseverance, and emotional resilience. They need it.
Yeah, it's absolutely part of the recipe.
Yeah.
So let's get into persistence first. I think persistence for me, it means what it says, to persist, right? You must continue to move despite things. So for example, we would think that a strong wind or a hurricane is blowing very strong and the person is continuing to walk, and maybe they're fighting so hard that their body's at a 45-degree angle. They're really leaning, but they're going to keep going despite that wind pushing them the other way. They're persisting through adversity. One of the other things that I always think about when I think about the word persistence or persisting, I think about The Matrix. I think about Agent Smith talking to Neo, talking to Mr. Anderson, getting upset, being frustrated that he continues to persist. Like, why do you persist? Why won't you just give up? Basically, why won't you just give up? And I think persistence is the unwillingness to give up. It is, I will continue to move, I will not give up.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy of persistence. People that are fan with Matrix will definitely resonate with that. But for me, persistent is something unpleasant or not cool because it requires, it requires repetitively. It has to be something continuously doing it over and over again. So this is why, for me, it's synonymous to the word consistency. I think persistent and consistency go hand in hand. And without these two together, it will be difficult to persevere.
Let's talk about that. So the reason for me that those are separate is consistency. When I think about consistency, I think about smoothness of something. Like if you cook or make food or anything like that, or you're blending something, you want a certain consistency, right? So for example, you can be persistent in your workout, but not always hit the same numbers.
That's okay.
Consistency would be hitting the exact same numbers all the time. Persistence is, I keep going to the gym, even if I don't hit all the numbers, I keep striving to hit it. I won't give up.
I see. Yeah, so the way I look at it is just more of that habit that you're doing.
Yeah, so for persistence, keep in mind that you're going to continue to move. It might be unpleasant as Juan describes it, but it's the unwillingness to quit, almost relentlessness, but not exactly.
Right.
And then grit.
Grit.
Bless us with some knowledge about grit from Sensei Angela Duckworth.
Well, first of all, the way I always look at grit is your ability to overcome your conflicts, adversity, and challenges on your life. And despite all those, you just keep going. There's a saying where it says, if I fail today, I will go again. I'll keep going again tomorrow. Grit is some days you might not, win the day, but you always have days that you will accomplish. And I think the way Angela Duckworth's word about grit is your passion plus perseverance. I believe it's together. It's not just about staying in love with your certain activity or passion. It's about also staying long enough and love that specific activity that you're doing. That's the predictor of long-term success. You need to stay in love in that process. I think another similar concept about this is when David Goggins said about when you're done, when your body is done, you think you're 100% done. He said that you're only 40% done of what your body is capable of. So that's grit right there. If you wanna develop grit, willpower and discipline is not enough. Grit is better because that's where it's gonna push you through your limit.
Yeah, I think that one of the key elements to differentiate that bit from persistence is the passion part. You can be persistent even if you don't enjoy the process, and that's part of maybe discipline and willpower by itself. But the grit element, the differentiator, why you need that with your willpower, right? Why you need that with your discipline is the passion element. The passion element, we always think of passion as fire. And I think that's a good way to view it, generally speaking, is that that fire, it does something for your fuel, the fire, fuel, however you want to view those two. They lead to you continuing to persist. And, part of it is loving it. Part of it is loving the challenge. But having some skin in the game where you're passionate about how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
I think that's a key element that Angela Duckworth talked about recently in grit, is because without that, you might just be persisting. But if you have that with their persistence, that's where you really develop grit, where it's like the rough days might be a little gritty, like you're in the mud kind of thing, but it doesn't matter because you love this thing so much.
Yeah.
Mud isn't even a factor. It's cool.
That's true. And in certain things, if you are on that game long enough, on a certain passion that you've been doing, there will be days that, of course, is going to be boring, And I think that if you are working on something, you need to guarantee yourself that, as Tom Bill, you said, suffering or, it will be boring at certain days, but you just gotta have to keep going. I think that's when people quit, because it starts to get boring, but you have to go through that.
I think the love for the game, the passion part.
Yeah.
To me, it's like this. If you really have a love or passion for the game, boring is a temporary factor. And in reality, where they say you just keep going, I don't think that's persistence. I think it's taking the boring part out of the equation. Like, that's cool and all, but it doesn't matter. We just throw that in the trash. The bigger focus is on what? Do I want to do this? Am I in the process? Do I love that? Am I going for it? Is the grit present? If the grit is still present, if the passion is still part of the element, then you're going. Right? The boring part is like, there's days that are boring. That's part of it. Like I said, in the mud, that's just part of it. Fatigue, soreness, that's just part of it. Yeah. But I love what I'm going to keep going. That's the grit part. It's like,
I see.
Versus the persistence or perseverance. Any of that perseverance is like, you're going to endure. Enduring is different, because that usually comes with a connotation of there's some weight or suffering that's happening. But with grit, it's the willingness to stick stuff out. Beyond that point, where that isn't even really a factor anymore. I think that's what makes grit so powerful. Right.
So I think the way I would associate this is when it comes to like working out, there are certain exercises, like for example, like exercise, I hate doing them, but I still do it, because it's part of being holistic, being overall healthy with your body. You can't just neglect one specific, such as your lower body.
Right, 100%. Our last one is emotional resilience.
Emotional resilience.
Yeah. So emotional resilience, I think, differs from, persistence and grit a great deal. I think that emotional resilience is, we talk about resilient. What do you think? You think maybe resistant or something like that. Being able to take a few shots. Something that's resilient can take a few hits, can take a few blows, and be okay, right?
Yeah.
So when I think about emotionally resilient, it's like, how resistant or how resilient are you in the face of emotional adversity? Things that are challenging for you emotionally.
Yeah. I think you have to challenge yourself, put yourself in a discomfort or uncomfortable situation every day. And I think that's how you're going to develop that emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is like being rejected or applying on 100 jobs and knowing that at least one of them will say yes, out of that 99 rejection, you develop some sort of
I think on average
resilience.
it's like 10%.
10%.
You get 10% of yes, you can probably get like 90% of like no messages or no.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that ballpark. So knowing that, that's part of it. That will definitely help you build up some resilience, but you have to use the perseverance, the persistence, and the grit to reach that point of developing the emotional resilience.
Right. And I think another factor that we all need to think about is that when we start a new activity, mainly we don't focus on the mistake. Kids make mistake all the time, but what's hard about that is what people are gonna think of us. We're gonna look foolish, embarrassed. It'll be painful and humiliating in the beginning, but for the most part, we have to develop that emotional resilience, because without that, then it will be very difficult to succeed on whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in life.
So I think that something that we could do, because we were kind of just talking about what emotional resilience is, how it's useful, right? And understanding what emotional resilience is.
Yeah.
A little bit about how to cultivate it is, yes, putting yourself in situations that are challenging, right? But I think something more important is to understand how or why that works that way. So, for example, I think one of the biggest challenges with developing emotional resilience is the inability to, or choosing to, or resisting, or not knowing that's possible to accept your feelings and emotions. You cannot, I don't think you can do a good job of developing emotional resilience if you're too busy resisting your emotions. It doesn't mean you should give in to every impulse or sensation, because some people think that's what that means, to accept your emotions. And that's not the case. To accept your feelings and be aware of them. No, to become aware of your feelings, to acknowledge what's going on, to ask, where does this come from? How does this work? That's going to better serve you in developing your emotional resilience. It's going to help you using certain techniques like reframing, changing your perspective, making new associations, which is basically the same thing. Learning how to go through those emotions while you are experiencing the challenges that you've put before yourself willingly, which is an important factor. Willingly put yourself in situations that are challenging and see it as a challenge versus I'm just going to submit myself to suffering. Totally different ballgame. I am going to work on this. This is a challenge. As I gain greater understanding, I apply my greater understanding and further develop in this area, therefore making me more resilient. It's like being resistant to certain viruses and vaccines happen and things like that, or whatever, or natural immunity. Is like being exposed to something after a while will help you be resilient to it. But only if you can figure out, or if your body can figure out, this is what's going on. This is no longer a threat. This is a threat. This is when we do something. This is when we don't do something. And I think that's an important factor for developing your emotional resilience. So again, you cannot really do a good job of developing emotional resilience if you're in a constant state of not acknowledging questioning or giving quality time to your feelings and emotions. If you don't do that, how are you supposed to develop the resilience? How are you supposed to get better at it? Ignoring it, by the way, will not make you better. It just makes it, it's like, if we were going to work out, it would be like going from, I'm going to work out and develop the muscle and get stronger and get better at it, versus I'm going to pretend I'm working out, but really I'm using this mechanical bionic thing, this other mechanism that I've developed to help me do the weights real easy. And I'm literally doing nothing. I have this other mechanism that's protecting me from it. But when that mechanism fails, or when it's not working, or when it's not an option, or it doesn't cover or guard everything, you're going to wish that emotional resilience was developed.
Yeah, I think not being aware with our emotions and feelings, I think it just makes us be more reactive through, in our life than being responsive.
Right. And I think that makes us more susceptible, because I don't want to say vulnerable. Vulnerable, people like vulnerable, like a threat. we don't really use vulnerable in that way because we talk about vulnerability as openness, and that's how you make connections with other people.
Right.
So I will say, we'll say it puts you at risk, not vulnerability, but puts you at risk for all kinds of things. Like you said, being more reactive, in certain situations, but also puts you at risk for lots of different health reasons. Like, having elevated levels of cortisol all the time because you don't know how to navigate how you feel is not good for your long-term health. Period.
Okay. So I thought about this in a different direction, right? Because when someone, like for example, when I start something new, it's mostly what I'm battling with is the emotional part, not the intellectual part.
Right. Or the physical part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of the time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
There are those other challenges, but I think those challenges are far less in today's day and age where we can learn so much really quickly. I would say that some of the bigger challenges that are more commonly faced is how do I navigate this emotionally? Like I have a block there.
Yeah.
What's up with that? And I think that's more common today than not.
I think that's so crazy to think about how we have so much information in today's day and age, and that we stop. Like when we're overwhelmed with too much information, we don't do anything. But comparison to like the past, they are lack of knowledge and information out there, and it's crazy how those two contrasts, like how there could be a problem.
Right. Yeah, it's just a different problem for today.
Right.
I think our challenge, again, is more of that. And that's why we do what we do and offer the services we offer and have emotional wellness classes coming up. I think in like 2 weeks. Well, actually, by the time this episode drops, probably like 1 week. But yeah, so I think that's it for today. Again, we talked about persistence, grit, and emotional resilience. Vaughn, is there anything else?
That's it. I think don't forget those three. You're going to need it to succeed in life. They're all having common. So if you haven't followed us on our social media, don't forget to follow us on Shift on Your Life, and don't forget to subscribe to Shift Training. That's it.
Yep, and we hope to see you guys in our upcoming emotional wellness classes. Links will be going out soon for those who would like to join us. It's a 1-hour class via Zoom. We'll be hosting 4 of them, 1 a week, and it's probably going to be on the weekend. So we'll talk to you soon. You guys have a great day.